ADHD Babes, the podcast, a podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast, the space where we explore the unique experiences of Black women and non-binary people with ADHD. I'm your host, Julez, and today we're talking about something that affects us all in one way or another: productivity. If you have ADHD, you'll probably have a complicated relationship with productivity. You might find yourself bouncing between bursts of hyperfocus where you feel unstoppable. And trust me, I've been there. And moments where even the simplest tasks can feel impossible. So today we're going to break it all down, figure out what productivity really means, why the ADHD brain struggles with it, and how we can redefine productivity in a way that works for us. So let's get into it. Productivity is often defined as a capitalist sense: being efficient, completing tasks quickly, and producing tangible results. It's a standard that works well for machines, but humans, not so much. And when you add ADHD into the mix, productivity becomes more complex. ADHD affects our executive functions, which is the brain's ability to plan, prioritize, and follow through tasks. So we've got a couple of points. I'm going to ask Shauna to join in. She's here with us.
Hello.
So a couple of things that kind of come up, we can kind of just go through and discuss them. So first one is procrastination, which is even when you want to do the task, you find it hard to. So it'll be quite interesting to know your thoughts, Shauna. What does procrastination feel like for you?
I feel like procrastination is one of those things that is like, it doesn't feel like you're doing something wrong, but it does feel like you're doing something wrong at the same time, because half of your brain knows that's not what you're meant to be doing. But it sneaks in there so much that it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to, start playing this game or start texting someone when I'm meant to be focusing or doing something else. And it's not until you realize you're procrastinating that it actually hurts, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does. And it's so interesting. It's because you want to do the task, but you're doing everything else but that task. So it can get like you feel like you're punishing yourself by not being able to do it. And that's what procrastination feels like. Another point is task avoidance. So especially when you find a task boring or overwhelming. And it would be quite interesting to hear like how that impacts you. What sort of tasks you find boring and overwhelming. You're just like, nope.
Admin.
Lovely favorite thing. Yep.
I feel like whenever you ask me to do some kind of paperwork or whenever you ask me to do something I'm not currently hyper focusing on, I'll avoid it. Don't you feel the same? If I'm into it, like I'm hyper focusing on it, I can do all the admin in the world. But it's cleaning. Cleaning is a task avoidance in itself, like, because it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Why clean?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
clean? But you want to clean because you don't want to be in a dirty space. You know that your mind's not going to work in a dirty space or a messy
Yep.
space. So why are you avoiding it? Like, what is it that you avoid?
Oh God. Application forms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I despise application forms, whether it's applying for a job, whether it's having to complete something to do with life admin. It's the repetitiveness of having to put the same information in over and over again. And it's just so boring. Or like realizing you have to call the doctor to do something. It's so boring. Oh God.
I'm just realizing we're both talking about adulting. Like, adulting is boring.
It's so boring. adulting is boring.
Adult.
And I find it overwhelming. Overwhelming.
Yeah.
So another
Yeah.
one
Oh,
that we can really talk
just.
about is difficulty starting or finishing tasks. Now, I know I struggle with that
Mm.
majorly. I will start something and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to come back to it. I still haven't gone back to it. And I know that I have to finish it off. Like I have to, it's sitting there. It's waiting for me. I had gel X nails and
Mm.
I just got frustrated with them. So I started taking them off, but all of them all couldn't come off at the same time. For a whole week, had uh, two or three still on, but because the task included me having to sit there and soak my fingers in acetone, I just couldn't bring myself to completing that task. So definitely one which I'm kind of like, there's just so many tasks which I've struggled to get around to doing, to even starting and finishing off. And it'll be quite interesting to hear because I feel like you probably have a plethora. not
Yeah. It
not in a
took.
bad way, but you know.
I do, I do, I do. Do you know what? It took me a really long time to realize, but like people go, oh, you start them, but you don't finish them, or you just don't start. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Both things are true. So I have to be pushed and pushed and pushed to start in the first place, or I'll make up, like, even when I was doing like, I wanted to do a podcast or waiting to do things that I enjoy, like voiceover and stuff like that, I would just be like, oh, I need to make sure I've done a website, but that's admin. I'm not doing that. And then it like goes into other things. So I won't start in the first place. And then I will start, but I have to like, and I suppose it kind of brings it on to something else, but I have to like, I might be like, yes, I'm doing this, and I might spend like 5 hours doing it. But if I've not finished it in that time and I have to come back to it at a new time, it's never getting done. Like, never. I have so many unfinished plays. So many.
Trust me, I know. Like, I started doing like building like these little mini models. And in the time when I was doing it, I was so hyper focused and it took me a while to start it, but I started it. The thing is still sitting on my desk. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come back to it. But I'm like, oh, I need to be in the right mental headspace to do so. Juliana, just go back to it. Just go back to it.
Eventually you will get back to it, but it might be 2 years later.
Yeah, which leads on to another thing, hyperfocus, where you lose track of time, but you get a lot done in one go. And that feeling is like euphoria.
It's like a superpower.
Oh my God, being able to sit down to the point where you forget to brush your teeth, you forget to eat, you forget to go to the toilet, you forget all the things because you're ticking things off the list. You're ticking it off, you're ticking it off. But that only seems to happen in spaces of time and realm and galaxies.
Don't you feel like hyperfocus kicks in, yeah, when you're meant to be doing something else?
Oh, absolutely. You know that you're supposed to be, you planned on doing something else and then something else came up and you're like, oh, look at that. I do that a
Yeah.
lot as well.
Like I was planning to do something whole something else. I ended up, like doing 5 hours of crocheting. Why?
Yep, yep.
No reason.
It happens. It's because I don't know whether it's a brain thing where your brain is sort of telling you, well, you're doing something else. It's a task. At least you're completing something else. So that's all that matters. So hyper focus on that and you know that you're doing something. And it's so
I
interesting because when I kind of do stuff, I can be so like when I get so hyper focused, I can be clicking, clacking away. You know, when you're like at work and you're typing all the emails and you're pressing down on the keyboard like, yes, I'm doing it. Woo. And then you realize, give me about 10 minutes. This hyper focusedness is just going to go and I'm going to be so distracted, which goes on to the
mm.
next point, distraction and forgetfulness. So I'd love to know kind of like the impact of being distracted and being forgetful has had on you when it comes to being productive.
Oh my gosh. Like for me, it's that thing of you have a brilliant idea, but if you don't write it down in that moment, you're going to forget that idea or forget what it is that you needed to do. You remembered that you needed to do, I needed to take the trash out, even something as simple as that. As simple as walking into the room or something catching your eye that will distract you. And that thought is gone forever. forever. It might, well, not forever. It might be like a week and you're like, oh yeah, I was meant to be doing this. And until you don't get anything done, because I feel like I'll walk into a room and I'll be like, okay, I need to make a shopping list. And I'll walk into the kitchen and then I'll realize the dishes haven't been done. So then I'll do the,
Start washing the dishes.
yeah. And what's worse is like I'm not being distracted on something that's fun. Sometimes I am. Sometimes it's just like, no, picking up my phone like is the worst thing ever because I will pick up my phone to do something productive and then see a game and open the game and then end up spending an hour on the game and then I don't even remember what it is that I wanted to write down.
It's so interesting how our brains work.
How is it that people like just, think I need to do something and just remember it?
And the thought stays there until they do it.
Can someone teach me that, please?
Yeah. But I also think it's a credit to us as well, like us as ADHDers who we have so many things just going on in our heads, so many
Mm.
things. And I feel like sometimes for our brain to connect to the thought process, you just have to pick one of all the many things that's happening. And when you sort of
Mm.
catch it, it's kind of like you catch it and you hope that it's going to stick so you remember. And the reason why I say that is because it kind of reminds me of times where I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to go, or like I pick up something and I'm like, gotta pick it, put it somewhere. But then I forget to pick up the item and I'm walking with such purpose. But then I realize I get to the place I'm like,
Why
hold
am I
on,
here?
why am I here again? What? Wait a minute. What's going on? Do you know
I
what I have
think
to
that
do? I
what do
have
you
to
have to do?
I literally have to walk back, like do like the whole rewind thing to the point where I'm kind of like every single movement. So I'm able to remember what it is that I
Mm.
have to do. And then all of
I,
a sudden I'll go back and I'll see the book and I'm like, oh, this is what I was supposed to pick up today with
you
me.
just reminded me of a fact as well, like putting things down in a safe place. Like I'll remember it because I'm putting it in the place that it's meant to be, or like its new home, and then never remembering where you put that ever again. Like you'll just
Yeah,
stumble across it when you're looking for something else, but you're that it doesn't exist anymore.
honestly, like it all sort of like personal documents. Like if I put it down somewhere, it gets piled onto something else, then all of a sudden I'm looking for it, and I'm like, where the hell did I put that piece of paper? And all of a sudden I'm looking through, flinging all these papers everywhere, and I'm like, where is this piece? I swear it's supposed to be here, and it's not there. And then all of a sudden, when you're not looking for it, poof, it's there,
I swear I looked here. I swear though, I swear I looked in
right?
this pile.
It's so interesting.
It makes you forget. Like I've like called up companies, being like, "You haven't sent me a new card. The card is there. They sent it to me.
It's just that you've just put it somewhere and said that I'm going to come back to that, and then don't go
Safekeeping."
back to it. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, very very big on distraction and forgetfulness. Very very big.
And those sort of feelings can really kind of like have an impact. Another thing that really comes up is emotional dysregulation. So feeling overwhelmed and frustrated when things don't go as planned. And again, it can kind of like, I think of moments where I'm like, have a routine in my head where this is how I want to do it. But I just get so, when one thing goes out of place, it just feels like I can't do it. Or
Mm.
like, this is missing from the puzzle. So because it's missing, I can't do it. And then it just stresses me out and I'm just like, and I don't want to do it. And so it can be really, really frustrating because I know that there's a part of us that wants to do it, but then our emotions just gets the better of us. And it'll be good to kind
Mm.
of hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I feel like it's so annoying because I feel like all the techniques that you put in place to get something working, one thing will send you spiraling, and then it's like those techniques don't work anymore, and it's like you got to start again from scratch. And it's also like getting yourself out regulated again is not always the easiest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need that external validation, but it literally would be like, okay, um, I'm not going to do anything for months because I'm just so overwhelmed by the thought of something that actually only takes 5 minutes. And you probably know it takes 5 minutes. You've done it before, but yet somehow you're just so overwhelmed by the fact that you need to do this task, and no one really understands why you're so overwhelmed or frustrated about something. That makes it more like it kind of adds to it. It takes a lot to kind of get back on track and like get back into that mind space where you're like, no, actually I can do this, like what was I fussing
Yeah.
about? I suppose there's things that people do to try to keep regulating themselves, but it's always something that you're battling against. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so interesting because for many of us, our self-worth is tied into productivity. So when we can't keep up with societal's expectations, it can kind of lead to feelings of failure, imposter syndrome, and low self-esteem. But here's the thing, like productivity isn't about doing more. And I think that's something we have to remind ourselves about. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters in a way that works for you. And this is sort of a daily reminder that I have for myself. And I'm sure you have daily reminders for yourself as well, Shauna, of just being kind to yourself and knowing that even the smallest task, achieving it is a massive thing for us. And it's important to do so. So it kind of leads on to the thing of like, if you've ever like beaten yourself up for being lazy or not being able to work in a traditional way, you're not alone. um I would say, like, for example, the ADHD brain isn't built for rigid and linear productivity. It's clear as day. It doesn't work for us. Even when we try, we sit there, we mask for many years and we burn ourselves out. So what we're going to try and do is like take a moment to reframe productivity. So instead of measuring it by how much we do, what if we measure it by the effort we put into it, the value something adds to our life, and how well we honor our energy levels, which is absolute key important. So, for example, rest is productive, and rest can look like many, many different things: creativity, reflection, and even just getting through the day with your mental health intact. Those are all valid forms of productivity. So I want to ask you, Shauna, what sort of rest or what sort of things do you consider as rest and being productive outside of what a neurotypical person would
Hmm.
consider productivity?
I would say for me, crocheting or knitting is
Yes.
rest. I think that whatever, like things for me that takes my mind or something, like I can do other things, like I can actually be present in the moment by doing something as simple as being creative and just coming up with something that I do, or even like some people really enjoy coloring in. Sometimes I even really like find that quite restful because it stops your mind from racing, from having so many
Hmm.
thoughts. And although it doesn't seem productive, especially if you don't have necessarily like, oh, I'm doing this for XYZ, it is productive because you're giving your mind a chance to like slow down.
Hmm.
I'd also say gaming. Gaming to me
Yes.
is restful. I do enjoy just going on walks as well, like just being with friends or being with people that enjoy doing what you like to do, and just kind of remembering to put that into my life. Like I actively add into my diary relaxation time
I love
where I
that.
can be like, it doesn't matter that I've got loads to do. That's scheduled, but this is relaxation time. And I can
Hmm.
do anything in that time, even if it's just like calling my friend or my family member and having a
Yeah.
chat, or playing a game for the day because
Hmm.
it's my day of rest. I think anything that allows you to kind of not think
Yeah.
about the things that you need to do is productive because you need that time to reset. What about you? What do you do?
I also think it's like a two in one thing. Like, for example, some people might find scheduling phone calls slightly overwhelming and might not
Mm,
consider that as productivity, but it's being productive because you are ticking off the phone call list and you're calling your loved ones and having heartwarming conversation. You know what I mean? You're doing two things, which
Mm,
is heartwarming, but also at the same time productive,
mm,
because simple phone calls, scheduling phone calls, or even sending messages and text messages can be extremely overwhelming. But if you are putting things into place where it's seen as a task and you tick off that task list, it's gratifying. Is that the right word?
yeah, so that's the
Yeah,
word.
yeah. So it's gratifying. And I think for me, what I consider, um, I love a rest. I'll be resting all the time. So, if if I had the choice to rest, I would rest. If rest was a job, I think I will be a billionaire.
Sign
Like,
me up.
for real, honestly,
Hmm.
like rest. It feels like it's in my DNA naturally.
Mm.
But things that I love doing that I consider rest, uh, is I love coloring. Like
Mm.
that's my thing. And it just feels like I'm able to just focus on my brain. Like go back to what you said, where your brain isn't having these 101 thoughts and racing and, having to think about all these different things. Being able to sit and do something and just be able to just pick out colors and just la 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 la. Oh, heaven for me.
Yeah.
Um, and being able, so for example, like we all have different ways in which we can kind of just, look at rest and what rest looks like for us. I struggle with reflecting, um,
Mm.
because again, reflecting feels like all of a sudden you're going down a long list of many things and then it's like 100 things that you're having to think about. But it's so important to use the opportunity to make sure at the end of the day that your mental health matters and that the tasks, the things that you've done doesn't impact heavily on your mental health and you're able to get back up and do the same things over again, but in the most impactful way that is impactful for you and beneficial for you. Um, but my roundabout way is coloring. I've recently got into kind of like miniature modeling, so building stuff and miniature houses and stuff like that. And
I
I
love that.
absolutely love it. Like gluing all the pieces together and seeing it come together. Oh my God. I remember sort of sending it to like my friend and my friend was like, oh my God, Jules, thanks for this. I'm gonna now buy myself a bunch of stuff. This is my kind of thing. I was like, yes. So I inspired somebody else to start getting into modeling. Well, not modeling, but
Mm.
like
Miniatures.
miniature modeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I'm really into. And I also like doing self-care stuff is my way of
Mm.
resting. So sitting there doing my nails. Um, I no longer go to the nail shop to do my nails. I do my nails at home. I find it very therapeutic. There's no pressure. Um, so yeah, so those are sort of kind of like the things that I consider as rest and also being productive because of doing
Yeah. I
something fun
mean,
I like.
you gotta look good. You gotta do something good, you know. I'm not gonna lie. You said doing your own nails, but I find I don't do my own nails because I find it frustrating because I can't do my right hand and I'm a perfectionist and it will look crap. But practice makes perfect, to be fair, so I should just practice at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But even just going to the lady and letting her like be pampered, getting a manicure, getting a pedicure, whatever that is, sometimes is also just as therapeutic because I don't have to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. So it's great that we've kind of reframed productivity. So I guess the looks and the crux of this conversation is talking about real ADHD friendly strategies to help us work with our brains and not against it, because sometimes, we can be hard on ourselves. So let's start off with one we currently kind of have within the ADHD based community. And is impactful and, of course, very, very popular. Body doubling. So, could you tell us a bit more about body doubling, Shauna, for those that don't know?
Yes. So body doubling is essentially having another person that might just is just present with you. So that might be in person or it might be over the telephone where um they are with you while you're doing a task. They might not be doing the same task. Most of the time they're not. But for example, some people might say they can't do the cleaning unless somebody else is in the room. So their best
Mhm.
friend might come over just so that they can sit there doing their own thing. They might be on their phones, but that person feels that that presence is there. But the whole point is that you have some kind of accountability. So for me, my mum is usually my accountability person when I need to get something done. Like I will be like, Mum, I need to get my taxes done, and she'll be like, all right. And she'll just get on me and be like, oh, have you done this? Blah, blah, blah. Just like kind of, okay, well, I'll sit here and you sit over there and do it kind of thing. Um, and for ADHD babes, I think that has been helpful. We've also expanding that, our
Uh-huh.
our body doubling offering. And because it
Uh-huh.
is so helpful to just be in a space where other people are being productive. So if you're doing something, it makes me want to do something too, in a way. It's kind of like reframing the space because you're being sociable and productive at the same time.
Absolutely. And just echoing off of body doubling, I think it like a unique way I've been able to body double without even thinking that it's body doubling is that I usually have a weekly sibling chat with my brother and sister where we all come on Zoom and we speak and we just catch
Mm.
up. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I need to wash my dishes because it's been piled up for days. Prime example, we can be kikiing on the Zoom or the Google chat and I'm washing my dishes away or I'm cooking my dinner. Then all of a sudden I'm remembering I need to actually cook my dinner. And
Hmm.
those sort of things, it's just like the littlest things without actually having to think about it
Mm.
has been environments where I've been able to body double because even though we are talking or say my sister's also on the call making herself dinner, I'm able to also make myself dinner. So I'm being
Mm.
productive at the same time and not just sitting,
Yeah.
you know, not doing anything. And again, it just helps with being able to focus because all of a sudden it's like you become this multitasker. You're able to do multiple things.
I feel like it grounds your brain because, like you saying that, yeah, I remember that my grandma actually said to me, "How comes every time you call me, you're cleaning?" And so it was like a repetitive thing. But every time I had a schedule, like I would be like, I'll call her. Obviously, I want to make sure I keep it check in with my gran, and um, I would call her, and then she'd be like, "What is that noise?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just putting dishes away," or "Oh, I'm just doing this." And also the fact that somebody's on the phone and you're talking to them, it's like one part of your mind's doing here. It's kind of like with the colouring or the knitting. One part of your mind's doing one thing, and the other part of your mind is then able to focus. And I think it
Yeah.
also goes in with that, um, what we were saying, about the making your mind think of one thing. The fact that you're
Yeah.
talking to somebody else is actually like it's the same as what we were talking about before about like just making like focusing your mind and your mind not having things. So it needs to focus on one thing, so it can only think about one other thing at a time, and therefore
Hmm.
you focus on that thing, if you know what I mean. But I do
Yeah.
find with body doubling, it also helps when um you have to tell someone what that is. So quite often with body doubling, I have said to someone, okay, well, what am I going to achieve in this time, kind of thing,
Hmm.
and then said, okay, well, we're going to do sprints. We're going to mute. No one's going to talk for like 20 minutes and you're going to get it done. And then in 20 minutes, we're going to check in and we'll have a bit of a chat. We'll tell we achieved, what we're going to achieve in the next sprint. So you might not actually be having a conversation with someone, but that accountability is still there because you still have to be like, oh, I never got anything done. And if you didn't get anything done, that person might be like, okay, why not try this or blah, 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 and be able to kind of give you a way to actually focus. So there's two sides of it, like talking to other people or doing other things at the same time. Um, but then also having that touch base of did I achieve what I said I'm going to be achieved? Was it even
Hmm.
realistic in the first place? That also helps with body doubling as well.
And that links me to the next one, which is really quite good because we've been talking about it, is task batching. So grouping
Mm.
similar tasks together to minimize context switching and making it feel less overwhelming. So it goes back to the body doubling where you go in, you want accountability, you want help focusing. So you've got a couple of tasks that feel similar that are grouped together where you can group them together and you kind of go, okay, I've got these tasks. I want to get them done. So from, household chores, from washing the dishes, cleaning your worktops, cleaning your cooker, like when you kind of like, and it's so interesting because I think I came across this video on social media where it's, people just say, oh yeah, I'm going to clean my kitchen. In an
That's
ADHD's mind, it's not
it's not one
cleaning the
task.
kitchen.
It's
It's
not one
washing
task.
the dishes. It's, putting the dishes away. It's washing the cutlery. It's washing the cups. So we're breaking everything down. So breaking every single thing down feels so overwhelming. So being able to group those things together could really help. And it kind of links to the whole body doubling thing, being able to have somebody
Mm.
who could hold you accountable to do it. What are kind of like tasks that you kind of have been able to, you kind of group together and think actually doing them together at the same time would, you know, be so much easier than having to kind of just be like, I'm going to do that tomorrow and that another day and that another day.
I think two things. One, things that make logical sense. So, like, for example, you might say, so for example, I have a downstairs loo and I have an upstairs bathroom. Some people might say putting, I've got to, like you said, it's not just cleaning the bathroom, it's doing the toilets,
Hmm.
doing the bath, doing the sink, doing the floor, like it's the mirrors, blah, 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 blah. And I might break that down and say, okay, well, I've got to do the toilets here, which means that I might as well just do downstairs because it's logical that I've got things there. So I've done two rooms at the same time, even
Hmm.
though in my mind I'm putting them as one. So it's making things logical, things that work logically is the things that I would group together. But also I would say things of different senses. So I like to listen to podcasts, but I no longer commute. So that time in which I would listen to music or listen to podcasts or something like that now has like fallen off of my radar because the thing that I did with it no longer exists. So for
Hmm.
me, I'll be like, okay, this podcast is an hour long. In that hour, I'm listening, I'm not doing anything. So instead of just sitting there and listening to it, I will actually clean my kitchen. And then that also then gives me a time limit. So I'm like, okay, things that have different senses work together. It's like I can see things but do things with my hands. I can listen to things but I'm actively doing things and I will kind of get different areas of things done within one. So I'm doing something that I want to do and something that I don't want to do at the same time.
Hmm. And that's so interesting because going back onto the timing thing, there's the 2 minute rule, which
Hmm.
is, if you have something that takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. It prevents small tasks from piling up. So I can definitely think of something that is 2 minutes for me sometimes, which I'm kind of like, I have to slow my brain down to remind myself I can do it. And it can be as simple as going to the toilet. Um,
Mm.
because uh, I don't know about you and I don't know about any other ADHD babes. When you're so hyper focused, you be forgetting to use the toilet to the point where you're literally shaking your whole body. Your body has to go into like Harlem shaking for you to realize that actually I need to use the toilet.
I'll just finish this and then I'll go. I'll just finish. Oh, and then I would need to. Now I might as well do this and then I'll go.
Yeah, and it just makes you think that it takes less than 2 minutes. So why don't I just do it and get it out of the way? Or even
Mm.
kind of like, and it just again, it's kind of just being able to just, realize that I think sometimes in our mind, the way we see it is that we break down the task so much to the point where it's just kind of like it feels like it's a lot bigger than what it is. And this isn't to say that it isn't small or it isn't big, but I think sometimes we just have to, sometimes I have to remind myself, just do it. If you do it
Mm.
and it's done, it's done. And not think too hard because that's also another thing that I do is that I think so hard about the task that somehow my brain tells me there's no point. Too hard.
Mm,
Don't do
do it
it.
later.
Do it later. And sometimes you just have to just start with a small part
Mm.
and just get it out of the way. And just think about that first part of the task, rather than think about the whole thing in itself.
And as we're talking about productivity, like one of my therapists says something to me about motivation in terms of being productive. And I suppose it is true that oftentimes when you just go, okay, this is a quick thing, I'll just do it, that then piles up the motivation to then do the next thing. So
Hmm.
in a way, that 2 minute rule is helping you to get into the motivation of productivity because you've just gone and initiated it. Like it's that
Hmm.
starting things, isn't it? And it's like, okay, well, if I just clean the sink, that's going to take 2 minutes. I'm just going to put dishes in the dishwasher. That will just take 2 minutes. But now I'm in the kitchen, so I might as well just do X, Y, Z. And I feel like
Yeah.
that, you know, if you have the mindset of it's less than 2 minutes, suddenly you're way more productive than you realize because actually it's started a chain of things that you needed to do anyway and maybe were avoiding, and takes
Hmm.
away that task avoidance as well.
Yeah. And another interesting one, which I actually learned from ADHD coaching, which is the Pomodoro technique. Now that's a mouthful.
Oh yeah.
Pomodoro, and of course, with an ADHD twist, because what is it without a twist for us? Um, so the traditional Pomodoro is normally 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes of rest. But what I find useful is just adjusting it to match your natural focus cycles. Some people do better with like 45-minute sprints, while others do better with like shorter bursts. And something that I used to do when I was working in the office was 20 minutes. So 20 minutes, I'll put a timer on for 20 minutes. Um, and it would come up on my screen. So it will show the 20 and I see the clock going down, but I never really focused on the clock. Um, and being able to do stuff in 20 minutes, then realize actually I have an opportunity to have a 5 minute break and actually taking that break. And during that break, I would make myself a cup of tea, get a glass of water, use the opportunity to use the toilet. Um, and it then motivates me to go back and do another 20 minutes. And it feels like the 5 minute rest is me rewarding myself.
I was just about to say that.
And it feels so nice because you feel like you've done 20 minutes of productivity and now you skip along to the kitchen and be like, oh, a cup of tea or let me go grab
Mm,
a biscuit or, that sounds so British. But whatever you want to do in the time of rest, you do it to rest. So
might be playing again.
yeah, exactly. Grab a quick game on your phone, or if you wanted to go on social media, some people might use it as a five
Scroll.
minutes.
Mm-hmm. Get dopamine
Yeah,
hit.
exactly. So it goes on to our next one, which is using rewards and dopamine
Bef-
hacks.
Before we
Oh,
move on, I just wanted to
yes.
say about Pomodoro is I read this thing once and I tried it. And sometimes the sprints that you do, so I used to do 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 15 minutes. So like as you're working up, it's kind of like 5, 10, 15, and then you have a big break in altogether. But also, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
task that you're doing, you might need different sprints. So don't set it
Mm,
into this is what works for me because you'll sit down one time and be like, oh, like this is just too much. If I'm doing something really intensive, I'll have shorter sprints. If I'm doing something really creative, usually I'll have longer sprints. Um, and set it for the kind of task that you're doing, not just a fixed um routine of this is how I work. Sometimes you need
hmm.
it to adjust it depending on what you're doing.
Yeah. And actually, just continue off of that before we go into the next sort of strategy. I the software in the previous role, the software that I had, I was working on a desktop, like a computer, like a Dell. And I don't know whether it was the newer software where you can now sort of build in sort of the Pomodoro sort of technique into your way of
Mm,
working. So you can kind of just decide your timer, figure it out, and then when you sign in the morning, you just click on the tab that says, yeah, this is what I want to do, and it kind of does it for you, and you just kind of work on your day. Um, and I found it really, really useful just being able to kind of like set it up for how it works for me, and then know that I
Mm.
can come in the day after every other day or every day, click that tab and know that it's up and running, and I don't have to kind of just like do it again over and over again. So I've
Mm.
found that also, and I don't know whether it's new updates or new softwares where it's becoming more sort of looking at ways we can be productive but beneficial to us.
I like how things becoming more inclusive. Yeah, more inclusivity.
Exactly. So going back to going back to what I was going to say, using rewards and dopamine hacks. So basically treating yourself when completing a task. So our ADHD brain thrives on immediate gratification. So pairing tasks with rewards can help. So I would love to know, Shauna, when you've completed a big task, what would you reward yourself with? And when you've completed a small task, what would you reward yourself with?
I still feel like I'm working on this one myself, to be honest. It still needs work. But I feel like um, sweet treats have been a really good, like, if I get this done and I can have that ice cream, that Magnum, or a bit of chocolate, something like that. Small things is like when I'm a bit obsessed with something, I get 5 minutes of it. Like, so um, I will be like, okay, if I do this, then I can play this game for 5 minutes, catch up on my farm, and then once everything's redone, I can go back and do this. And then, yeah, so I feel like things that like give bigger hits of dopamine, which are probably not as helpful, kind of like gaming, like mobile games, or like even scrolling for a bit on social media that gives you like a lot of dopamines that you can go back. I feel like I use for the shorter ones. And then I use like, okay, I'm going to go back and watch that movie. I'm going to watch that show, or I'm going to have that ice cream has normally been the bigger rewards. Or um, I feel like just being like, that makes me feel like I can take the whole day off. That is also a big reward.
Hmm.
I'm not going to do nothing today.
Yeah,
I've had a hard
absolutely.
week.
Yeah. Those are very, very important rewards and very impactful rewards. So I couldn't agree more with those sort of rewards. And it's so interesting because how I look at it, I maybe I just every day is reward day for me, boy, because I'm just like, God damn, that was hard. Reward Jules. I've been rewarding myself all the time. I woke up today, reward.
Yeah, that is a reward, Getting out of bed is a reward. In fact, do you know what, right? My reward today was Starbucks
I love that.
because I got out of bed and I got to the office on
Hmm.
time, early. That I didn't run around. I stopped, I got out the car, I went and I bought myself a Starbucks, and I went to work and I was still on time. And that is a reward because I've actually got out of bed on time in the middle of the morning. So, reward. Getting out of bed is a reward. Deserves a reward.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. So normally I'm somebody who takes my lunch into work. Um, but on Thursdays, because it's the last day before we work from home, Thursday I see as my reward of getting to Thursday and coming into the office. I treat myself to an outside lunch. So,
Oh,
I get myself lunch from somewhere. No, I try not to be too expensive because working in central London, you could easily spend £20 on lunch. And you think, for what? What did I just get? But I like to treat myself to like, you've got through the week of going into the office, so here's your treat. And then like to stuff like where I feel like I've managed to do all the things that I needed to do and I haven't broken down or felt overwhelmed. this is going to sound insane because it probably links to impulsivity, but I try to remind myself not to be too impulsive. Um, but when I feel like I've really done really well with getting my tasks done and just feeling really good about it, stuff might be sitting in my ASOS basket where I've been going back and forth. I'd be like, I don't have a valid reason to buy this. But then all of a sudden I'm like, actually, girl, goes back to the Parks and Recs, treat yourself. So I treat myself to a couple of things in my ASOS basket if I need to, if I have the funds.
Treat yourself. Treat
Oh,
yourself.
treat yourself. Yes, exactly. So, um, that's
Yeah.
my way of rewarding myself for being able to do and complete tasks. And it is quite nice because, you feel good about it. But also other strategies that are really impactful and that can help with productivity is medication and therapy. And obviously we are not medical practitioners, and obviously we advise you to take advice from your doctors, your GP, whoever. But if you are taking ADHD medication, timing it around the most demanding tasks can be really, really helpful. So I know for me, I have taken ADHD meds in the past, and I've been prescribed medication that is, I don't know whether it's fast release or slow release. So by the time I take it in the morning and I get to the point where I need to start my working day, like it's linked to my brain and I'm good to go. And
Mm,
I found that really, really helpful. I'm spending longer times being able to continue working throughout the day and not get to a certain time, like for example, 11 o'clock and be like, oh, I'm done. Ooh, today drained me. Whereas
mm.
today is not over. So
Yeah.
being able to be on medication, and it's different for everyone. Medication I have found really, really impactful, as well as therapy. And therapy can look like coaching or CBT, which can offer strategies and tailored to basically your needs. So I know that you have mentioned therapy. Throughout the conversation, Shauna. It would be quite
Mm.
interesting to know, sort of kind of like the strategies that you've had through therapy and how therapy has helped with those.
I haven't done CBD, but I have done talk therapy, and I feel like that helps to um, have like a space where you can kind of process things out loud. Like one of the things we struggle with ADHD is processing things internally. And sometimes when you do that with your friends or your family, it can become about like so much about you. So being in a space where it's just kind of like, okay, we're focusing on what you need to get out of your brain has been really helpful. Coaching as well has been really helpful because sometimes for me, it's also not noticing what your needs are. Sometimes you don't realize that you need that need, or there's a solution to the thing that you are struggling with that you're not aware of. And having an external person be like, "Oh, have you tried this?" I find that whenever I have a coach, I feel way more motivated to get things done because, again, maybe it's that talk therapy type of thing. You've got someone to bounce ideas off that is solely focusing on the thing that you're trying to achieve. And that can be really helpful for me. I haven't taken medication yet, but I do think that I want to try it. I'm on the list.
Hmm.
I'm getting there. But yeah, coaching and talk therapy has really been helpful for me. I know some people that have had like CBT, which can be really helpful in terms of like reframing thought and reframing what we were talking about, like that self-worth and that negative cycle have been really helpful. But I've also seen others that say it hasn't been as helpful as they thought it would be. And I think that's where you kind of got to tailor what you need for what think about what you need and how the different things can help you. So if you're trying to achieve one thing, CBT might be helpful. If you're trying to kind of just organize your brain, then maybe talk therapy would be more of a better avenue, or coaching would be a better avenue. And it's then able to make basically put yourself in the right scenario to get the strategies that you need overall.
Absolutely. And to kind of just wrap up on that, I think it's so important to just really emphasize on radical self-compassion. So being able to accept that some days will be harder than others, and your productivity doesn't define your worth. And something I always say, to a lot of like my family and friends is being kind to yourself. And, sometimes I have to say out loud to myself and say, Jules, be kind to yourself. You know, you might not have got that task done today, but it doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you are not worthy. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean, that, yeah, you're gonna die. Do you know what I mean? It's okay. There is always tomorrow. And even if you don't do it tomorrow, that is also okay. You will eventually get it done. So being kind to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and just, you know, being able to kind of just realize that you can, some days are going to be hard and it's all right. It's all right. But you woke up today and you got out of bed and that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
I feel like I kind of build that into my schedule. Like, not that I know that things are going to be difficult and like it normally just pops up. But for example, if you've got a cycle, then you know that at certain points of your cycle, it's going to be more difficult. It is for me.
Hmm.
So tracking my cycle and being able to say, next week's going to be real difficult. So, it kind of
Hmm.
motivates you to get things done. But when those days come and you don't get out of bed or you just want to crash on the sofa and you just want to do those things, you're not beating yourself up because you've kind of been like, I knew this was going to happen. So in a way, I kind of build that in to get as much done as I can when I can. And when I can't, that's fine because I know that it's a cycle and I'm going to be able to do it again. But right now, this is not one of those times.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to kind of like speak to my younger self. So if I could go back and talk to my younger self before I knew I had ADHD, what would I say? This is a question that I want our listeners to also ask themselves. What would you say to your younger self? I think for me, what I would tell me, looking back now and knowing, is that I'm not lazy. I'm not broken. I'm just function differently, and that's okay. I
Mm,
think being able to hear those words in my younger self or telling my younger self that, knowing that I have ADHD now, it would offer the world of difference. Being able to know that I'm not stupid and, despite teachers saying, oh, you're not working hard enough. Well, I am working hard and I'm just doing it differently. And I wish that they would be able to pick up on that. So I
mm.
think something I I guess I could ask you the same question, Shauna. Is there anything you would tell your younger self before you had
The only
ADHD?
words that are coming to me now are kind of like, I would say, you are able to achieve a lot of things easily that other people cannot. Don't beat yourself up for the things that you can't.
I love that. That
Because
sounds
I do think
amazing.
that there is positives of ADHD that sometimes it's easy to forget because of how hard it makes life. Yeah, so I think it's kind of like there are things that I don't even realize people struggle with that I find easy, and that is because of my ADHD, and that's a win. But the thing, yeah, I think that's where I would kind of remind myself that actually you can achieve things. You just achieve it in a different way. So don't beat up yourself for things that you struggle with.
Hmm.
Um, Other people aren't. But I agree with the lazy thing. Definitely not. I would. Oh, one more thing, actually. Um, I would say look at the definition of lazy.
Hmm.
Ask someone what laziness actually is, because we often think laziness is like wanting to do the thing, and actually that's not laziness. It's knowing that you need to do the thing and just not doing it, like
Hmm.
and not really caring. And so
Yeah,
yeah, maybe look up the definition of lazy.
absolutely. No, I hear that. I hear that. Um, so I want to go kind of like throw it back to our listeners and, we want to kind of like have a conversation online. Um, How has your relationship with productivity changed since learning you have ADHD? Let us know in the comments or on social media. We'd love to hear your experiences, and maybe, who knows, we might be able to share it on our next episode. That's it for today's episode. Wow, what a freaking amazing conversation. So we've talked about what productivity really means, how ADHD symptoms impact it, and how we can redefine it in a way that works for us. So if you've enjoyed this episode, let us know how your ADHD has changed your view of productivity. Has it stayed the same, or has it shifted over time? You can find out more about ADHD Babes at ADHDbabes.com, on all our social media platforms. All our social links will also be in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, our minds might wander, but our magic is unstoppable. Keep thriving, keep learning, and most importantly, keep being you. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and need help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.
Just as I am, can you take me just as I am?